You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Guys, emergency! The double jalapeno queso dip is missing from the fridge.
Okay, Dave, breathe. It's just a dip.
Did you check if you ate it all last night?
No way. This is a crime, a dip napping, and I'm going full detective on this.
Here we go.
Step 1, secure the crime scene.
Dude, it's just a fridge.
Step 2, collect evidence. Look, salsa drips, crumbs, a suspicious smear on the fridge handle. The perp was sloppy.
Or just really hungry.
Step 3, interrogate the suspects.
You mean us?
Exactly. Selena, where were you last night between these standard dip hours?
Podcasting. And as much as I love double jalapeno, I was avoiding the dip drama.
I was on a snack break. Totally innocent.
Keith, you're sweating suspiciously.
Well, it's a bit hot in here.
You're both ridiculous.
Aha. Well, there is fridge camera footage.
Wait, what? You installed a camera inside the fridge?
Absolutely. Snack security is serious business.
Enabling fridge footage from June 30th, 2025.
Look at this. Well. It's our podcast producer sneaking in and grabbing a dip.
Recording in progress. Drop the dips. I repeat, drop the dips. Ow, please stop. I retire in 3 days. Ow, have you no mercy? Ow. Wait. You can't get rid of me that easily. Ow. You're getting rid of me easily.
Wait, what?
The producer? She's the real culprit?
Case closed. The dip thief has been caught on camera.
So, you went full detective, made us do a mini interrogation, and the dip was stolen by one person none of us suspected?
Exactly. Never underestimate the power of dip.
I'm just glad it wasn't one of us.
Dave, next time maybe just label your dip Dave's Dip. Do not eat.
Oh, where's the fun in that? And now a word from our sponsor, ThreatLocker, the powerful zero-trust enterprise solution that stops ransomware in its tracks. ThreatLocker Protect is the core ThreatLocker product focused on endpoint security, designed to prevent unauthorized software from running, control how applications interact, and manage access to storage devices. Its building blocks are allow listing, ring fencing, and network control. Allow listing is a deny-by-default software that makes application control simple and fast. Ring fencing is an application containment strategy, ensuring apps can only access the system resources they truly need to function. Network control locks down access by port, source IP, or dynamically with ACLs that automatically update as IP addresses change. Shut out cybercriminals with world-class endpoint protection from ThreatLocker. And we thank ThreatLocker for sponsoring Only Malware in the Building.
We're pivoting from DIPS to DPRK. Today, we're going to talk about North Korean threats and threat actors and how they are both targeting technology workers as well as becoming IT workers within organizations in the US and globally. It's really interesting to take a look at how the North Korean threat activity has changed over the years. Maybe, Keith, you can have us go on a walk down malware memory lane by reminding us of North Korean actors and what are they doing now?
Oh,
Yeah.
Talk about Keith's favorite things.
I love talking about history, So, obviously when we think of North Korea, from the beginning, we think of like the Sony attack. We think of these destructive type of attacks. We think of hitting like the Bank of Bangladesh, the $1 billion heist, that's out there. So we think of North Korea doing those types of attacks. We love the name Lazarus. We like to play like kind of like the Toys R Us, like Laz R Us, games with them. But that's kind of traditionally how we have thought about North Korea with these destructive attacks. And what we've really seen them now start to pivot now is, hey, they're going to move just from, these offensive type things to like, hey, we're going to steal money to help get past the sanctions that are in place and help fund the regime. So they've really gone from this simplistic types of attacks, destructive, to now really impressive things where they're not only using malware, they're setting up recruitments, they're trying to get hired, they're stealing cryptocurrency, and it's just one big, operation here now. So, that we'll just dive in here in this episode, which I think is very fascinating.
Going back even further than that, I mean, can we lay out for our listeners kind of what the situation is with North Korea as an actor on the global stage? I mean, they kind of stand alone. Is that a fair way to describe them?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're different than the other threat actors out there because really their economic espionage, like their espionage operations are so intertwined with criminal activities to steal money right now. So they are a different beast from any of the other, state-sponsored hackers that are out there.
Well, and also too, so they obviously are the originals of APT cribbing on crime. So, they for a long time have used their activity for financial enrichment for the Hermit Kingdom, to build the nuclear weapons, to fund, government operations in a way that you don't really see with any other sort of major state threat actors. And they've been doing that for a few years now. And also what I think is pretty interesting is, so they're kind of like this like overlapping threat actor, right? So they're actually like their country is directing them to steal money. Whereas oftentimes what you'll see with some of the other APT e-crime sort of overlap, it's, maybe I'm a Chinese cyber criminal on the side while I'm, doing work to support the government interests that I'm being tasked with. Maybe, I'm moonlighting as something else. We've seen it with Iran a little bit also, but not quite on the same level of North Korean threat actors. And they have I would say they have really become great at stealing cryptocurrency. They are so good at it. It's crazy. And hundreds of millions of dollars worth, right? Like it's a big system that they've got going on. And one thing I actually thought was kind of interesting as well is it's not just sort of in the cyber realm that we're seeing some sort of like expansion of their activities or potentially, collaborating or working with other groups, but they've also become involved in supporting Russia in their invasion of Ukraine. So we see, North Koreans physically on the front and fighting in support of that. And we've also actually seen in email threat data, North Korean aligned threat actors targeting government entities in Ukraine likely collect intelligence on the trajectory of Russia's invasion. So they're doing kind of a lot. And I think, the stuff that is pretty interesting. Obviously, is like the crypto to enrich the country, but also some of the clever social engineering and some of the tactics that they're using in some of their cyber attacks that are very unique to this particular group of threat actors.
Yeah, and especially talking about the stealing of the cryptocurrency, what we're seeing out there right now is they are setting up LinkedIn profiles to be recruiters to try to recruit people at cryptocurrency companies or people that are doing work for cryptocurrency companies. Do that. And Selena, do you want to kind of talk about how they're targeting GitHub repositories as well?
Yeah, so we've seen, for example, some sort of like supply chain type of attacks. So compromised NPM packages. You've seen them sort of, like upload malicious code on GitHub. There's a really interesting write-up about how they are actually trying to clone a repository, have this malicious stuff embedded in the GitHub repository, and then they'll direct people to sort of like download this. And in these interviews, right? Like, oh yeah, we're recruiting you. We want you to do this. And then here, click to download this, to use this tool. So it's kind of interesting to see how they're going after the tools and the sort of resources that some technical people would be using, the folks that they're targeting. And so there's been a lot of reporting on how they are actually going after like tech industry specifically. So these job seekers that work in this industry, I think, how was it? Contagious Interview is one of the clusters, and then going back way far, Operation Dream Job. So you have these campaigns and ongoing, campaigns that they're called with these, sort of code names that are all about job and recruiting and focusing on technology and defense.
Yeah, I think there was like an Operation 99 was like one of those campaigns, or I think where they were going after clone GitHub repositories, and Mars Tech Mayhem was another name that was out there. That involved JavaScript and Python implants that were served through interview-themed lures and fake recruiter personas.
Dave, your favorite crazy names?
Well, yeah. I want to dig into these job recruiting and the fake employees and all that kind of stuff. But before we get to that, just at a higher level, Keith, we keep mentioning cryptocurrency, right? And I'm curious, from your experience in law enforcement, I mean, you were around when cryptocurrency became a thing, right? What was that like for people in law enforcement to suddenly have kind of this end around of the global monetary system? Is that a fair way to frame it?
Well, I think it's kind of started before cryptocurrency. So because you had, let's go back to eGold, if you remember that, back in the early 2000s, which was really kind of, it was a platform that was based on the gold currency. I mean, the gold standard and like how much the price of gold was. So you could buy eGold, and it was all virtual currency, and the criminals used that. And then eGold was taken down, and then it went to Liberty Reserve, which was very similar. And the Russians used web money, which was very big at the time. So those digital currencies kind of predated the cryptocurrency. But then once you got to crypto, then, everything's out on the blockchain there, and it was, untraceable, and, a lot harder to track than, those eGold or web money and things like that.
That is so interesting. I have to admit, I did not know about eGold.
No, me neither.
And how it was used by cyber criminals.
Yes, it was one of my favorites to use when I worked undercover way back in the day. So,
No, that's interesting. I mean, and you hear about it. Look, if they're going to figure out ways to launder the money, right? I mean, they're going to figure out where the weak spots are and all this kind of stuff. But it just seems to me like, again, we're talking about North Korea, which is so isolated from the rest of the global community. And yet, here's a way for them to participate. I'm putting air quotes around participate, because you have this borderless, unregulated, Wild West currency, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, the amount of money that's going through crypto, and right now, crypto is a big thing here in the States. It's we have a president; he's the first crypto president. So more and more people are putting their money in crypto, and it's not just now this thing of cyber criminals. It's much more legitimate, but yet the criminals are exploiting it.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Selena.
I was going to say, I did a talk at SleuthCon last year, and I did a timeline of ransomware, basically, specifically focusing on Russia. And one piece of the timeline was, 2010 or whatever, Bitcoin invented, ruins everything. Huge mistake.
I guess it depends on your point of view, right?
Yeah.
Some people would say Bitcoin made everything great.
Oh my gosh. I can't say that as someone who follows and tracks crypto and mostly used by criminals, and how criminals have begun scamming people using crypto, like pig butchering, is a huge threat. My feelings might be fairly obvious.
I'll tell you one thing. I saw just this week, somebody did an expose on some of the guys from Conti, and one of the guys is a name true to my heart. This guy, Vitaly Kovalev, who's one of the original godfathers, in my opinion, of cybercrime. But they were talking about that they tracked his crypto wallet, and he has $500 million in that wallet. So here we have a cyber criminal, maybe the first cyber billionaire here, in the upcoming years. It's just, insane when you think about that much money in, one crypto wallet.
Go
ahead.
I do think it's interesting, though, with crypto, you could track where the payments are going. So you can see, okay, what is DPRK doing with this money? What are they, who are they giving it to? How are they laundering it, right? What wallets are they going to? And does that wallet have overlapping activity with other potential malicious threat actors? And you're actually able to see this is how much money they're making and this is where it's going. So I do think from that perspective, it's really, really interesting, because it used to be that, it's totally anonymous. And now it's like, well, actually, you can see everything that everyone is doing. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Well, in the time we've got left, I want to talk about one specific element to this, which is these stories we've heard about folks from North Korea in particular applying for U.S. tech jobs and getting the jobs. So let's unpack that a little bit, how that's possible and what the implications are for us and for them. Selena, you want to start things off for us?
Sure. So it's this massive problem of IT workers from North Korea working at legitimate companies. And so they will apply to these jobs, and they will, go through the entire recruitment process, and they will actually obtain these jobs, mostly, tech jobs. And what's also very interesting is they have a network of supporters, not just, they're not just operating exclusively with North Korean threat actors, right? So there was a very interesting story from, for example, I'm from Arizona, so this was particularly interesting, but there was this Arizona woman who, was working and basically facilitating these DPRK workers from her living room. And so she had all of these laptops, and she was doing a lot of the work that they were asking her to do, and basically forwarding the work from wherever the North Korean actor was, China or Russia or wherever that they were physically located, to having access. Oh, I'm in Arizona. Like, this is my job. And so essentially what they're doing is they are infiltrating these companies, and they're making a lot of money. And in many cases, they have multiple jobs that are, making lots of money. And DTEX actually put out a pretty interesting report on some of these threat actors. They published 1,000 email addresses that were used by these actors. They named some in particular, dropped their images, explained, this is how they've been working and how this actually works. But it's a big and insidious problem. And I think it's really interesting when companies actually publish like, hey, this happened to us. And so Kraken, which is a crypto finance firm, which I have to say, a lot of these guys, like they want to go work at these crypto firms. It's an interesting tech job. And so, with Kraken published a really interesting blog and went through the process of like, they applied for this job. Here's how they, tried to get in. Here's how we caught them. And here are some of the ways in which the questions that we asked and the things that we made them do to try and identify that actually they were fraudulent. And so they, have these red flags and all of these things, but they do that. And honestly, there's a lot of reporting that they're using AI-enabled tools. So they have something set up where they get asked a question and then they put the question through whatever LLM it is that they're using to provide an answer. And so this is sort of this like real time. And, we talk about some of the challenges or risks of AI and LLMs. So this is a great example of them using it to enable their fraud, basically.
I got a great story with that too. So I was talking with my with a CISO friend of mine, and he said they were probably about for every 50 applications, about 35 of them were these IT workers, and he said, that they were deploying different techniques in the interview, because like somebody was supposed to be from Tampa, and one of the guys that was interviewing the person was from Tampa. So he's like, "Well, how's the weather out there?" And they couldn't answer it, and they could see him looking up, to like, where somebody to look on, Google, what's the weather in Tampa, and it was just, different things like that. They would make the person get up and move. So if there was an AI generated, face there, if the person would move, you could see it. So they were kind of having fun with that, as kind of that first line of seeing if they could detect it. But it's very prevalent from, what he told me.
At the RSA conference a couple weeks ago, Adam Myers from CrowdStrike was doing a session and said that an interview question you should add is, how fat is Kim Jong-un? Because if you ask that question, they will hang up.
Oh, that is great.
Allegedly, because it's not worth them answering the question and getting in trouble with, dear leader. So they will typically end the call. Yeah, isn't that funny?
I also think it's pretty interesting that this is something that's going on for quite some time. It's really come to the general public recently. And I think just because it's so bad now that it's been very, very effective. But for example, in the case of the Arizona woman who I believe, she just pled guilty to this fraud scheme. It said that she was this American citizen conspired with overseas IT workers from October 2020 through October 2023 to steal the identities of U.S. nationals and use those identities to apply for remote IT jobs. So, this is something that has been going on for some time. I mean, she obviously had a business, running a business, speaking of startups, in business enabling, IT worker fraud. But it is something I think that has been going on for so long, was pretty successful, because now we're at this tipping point where it's like, oh, this is actually bad. And you have, companies talking about, we accidentally hired an IT worker. Here's what we did. And just, all coming out with these stories, which is such an interesting human interest story, in my opinion. Like, it's such a weird human story.
The stories that are coming out describing this are from cybersecurity companies who've had it happen to them. So these are not unsophisticated people. These are people who have lots of steps in their hiring process and lots of vetting. So I have to imagine that if folks with that level of sophistication are falling victim to this, imagine your small, or medium-sized business, your mom and pop shop, who's just looking to hire a fractional CISO or, just somebody to help remotely. They're sitting ducks when it comes to this, potentially. Yes?
Absolutely. And just, the other thing is, the sheer number that North Korea is of people that are thrown at this. But now, there's always going to be copycats. When you see the success of that. So now, are the Chinese going to start doing this? Are the Russians or the Iranians? Because, why spend a lot of time trying to get in with malware and try to get through those defenses? That does, when you can just kind of go right through HR, and get somebody in and actually get a computer from the company. And, so, when are the copycats? When are we going to start seeing that? In my opinion, we're going to see pretty quickly.
Well, and this is actually interesting because we in a previous podcast, we're talking about some of the overlap between APT and e-crime. This is one thing that I think will definitely stay in the realm of espionage. like cyber criminal threat actors are not going to bother going through this whole process of actually getting jobs. In fact, a lot of them probably are not at the level of being able to apply for a technical job at stealing someone's identity and applying for a tech job. But at that point, they should just not be doing crime.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you're that skilled, I mean, come on.
Yep. There's more to come after the break.
Well, it's an interesting thing, and obviously something to keep an eye on. But it's a fascinating kind of subset or subculture, even of online crime that people just have to be vigilant against. Thank you both. This is an interesting conversation, and we will see you both back here next time. I'm going to go and try to recover what's left of my dips.
Can you share your jalapeno dip next time, Dave?
No, I cannot.
And that's Only Malware in the Building, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. In a digital world where malware lurks in the shadows, we bring you the stories and strategies to stay one step ahead of the game. As your trusty digital sleuths, we're unraveling the mysteries of cybersecurity, always keeping the bad guys one step behind. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you ahead of the ever-evolving world of cybersecurity. If you like the show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes, mixing and sound design by Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Ivan. Peter Kilpie is our publisher.
I'm Dave Bittner.
I'm Keith Malarski.
And I'm Selena Larson. Thanks for listening.
Thank you to ThreatLocker, the powerful zero-trust enterprise solution that stops ransomware in its tracks, for sponsoring Only Malware in the Building. Visit threatlocker.com.